everyone has heard of the Flintstones.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family.
Fred and Wilma, Dino, pushing your car with your feet, and selling cigarettes to kids. The show was fantastic and was the first animated series to have a primetime slot on TV, the longest running cartoon until The Simpsons passed it. I mean, the Flintstones is culturally iconic. But did you know that the show has been accused of liberally borrowing from another, even older, iconic TV show? Yes, it's true. When compared side by side, many people claim that the Flintstones is basically a prehistoric version of Jackie Gleason's wildly influential sitcom, The Honeymooners. But let's look at the evidence ourselves. I'm Nostalgic Nick for Do You Remember? And today we're looking at some of the ways the Flintstones borrowed characters and ideas from The Honeymooners. Be sure to use your feet to hit that thumbs up button for us, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. But now let's get down and dirty with some friendly plagiarism.
But I'm keeping my eye on you.
Fred Flintstone. Let's begin with how Fred Flintstone is basically Ralph Cramden of the Honeymooners, transported thousands of years into the past. Cramden is a loudmouth, short-tempered man who frequently resorts to yelling, insults, and empty threats to get his way.
But you know that I know that you know that I know what you've been doing around here all day.
Yet underneath this gruff exterior, he is a loving husband and devoted friend. He is unsatisfied with his working-class job and often comes up with outrageous schemes to make a quick buck. Now take Fred Flintstone. He's got a loud mouth, a short temper, and often yells insults and empty threats to get his way. But under his gruff, animated exterior, he too is a loving husband and devoted friend. Unsatisfied with working-class job? Check. Outrageous money-making schemes? Check. You see what I mean? Both characters enjoy bowling and are members of silly men's-only social clubs. Just about the only difference is in their catchphrases. Fred's has aged slightly better than Ralph's pow right in the kissa. I guess domestic violence had gone out of fashion by 1960. Barney Rubble. So maybe sit down for the rest, because not only are both shows' main characters basically carbon copies, so are their best friends and sidekicks. Both Ed Norton and Barney Rubble are considerably more even-keeled than Ralph and Fred. And when they do get into arguments, it's usually because of their friend's short temper. And both Norton and Rubble are almost loyal to a fault, putting up with insults and bluster from their best friends constantly.
Oh, you're gonna get it, Norton. You're gonna get it.
They both have a wife who is way too attractive for them and are easygoing and easy to like. Basically the perfect foil for their louder, brasher friends. And get this, voice acting god Mel Blanc of Bugs Bunny fame was even asked to copy Norton's vocal patterns for Barney's character, a request that he flat out refused because he's the greatest. Characters' appearances. Okay, so you say it's just a coincidence so far. Having two friends with opposite temperaments is quite common for TV. So now we should mention how the main characters look. Ralph Cramden is a large man, both tall and heavy-set, with short, dark hair who looks just like John Goodman, who would be cast to play him in the movie version of The Honeymooners. Now Fred Flintstone is a tall, overweight man with short, dark hair, and his live-action actor was John Goodman. Now that can't be right. Yabba dabba double. Now think about how Ed Norton and Barney Rubble are smaller than their friends, with Norton being considerably thinner than Cramden, and Barney a good head and a half shorter than Fred. Whew, this is starting to sound more and more suspicious. The wives. Alice Cramden is the sensible, level-headed wife of Ralph, who has to bear the brunt of his tantrums and outbursts. She can foresee the failures of her husband's get-rich-quick schemes, but he never listens to her advice. Now Wilma Flintstone is the practical and realistic wife of Fred, who has to put up with his poor behavior and flashes of anger.
Now don't blow your top.
It's my top, and I'll blow it if I want to.
Now that sounds pretty similar. Then there's Trixie Norton, Ed's wife, whose character is kind of underdeveloped, except for the repeated joke of her having once been a burlesque dancer. Trixie is also much more attractive than her husband, just as Betty Rubble is way out of Barney's league. Betty also isn't given much to do other than take up space looking great. Just about the only difference between the two set of wives is that Wilma and Betty love to shop and run up credit card bills, but we'll delve into that soon. Mother-in-law. One of the biggest annoyances of Ralph Kramden was his mother-in-law.
You are a blabbermouth!
She is even sharper tongued than him and hates Ralph for, as she sees it, not being able to adequately provide for her daughter. Contrast that to Fred Flintstone, who has a very loving relationship with his mother-in-law. Scratch that. Pearl Slaghoople, the impeccably named mother of Wilma, disapproves of Fred completely. From the time she first met him as a penniless bellhop masquerading as a millionaire, to the present day in Bedrock. Both mothers-in-law are impossible to please and prove to be a constant irritant to both Ralph and Fred. Social clubs. It's kinda hard to believe today, but social clubs with preposterous names, like the Loyal Order of the Moose and the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elk, were once very popular. The Honeymooners dutifully skewered this by having Ralph belong to the Loyal Order of Raccoons, a much less dignified and proud animal. And by now, I'm sure you know where this is going. On the Flintstones, Fred and Barney regularly attend meetings of the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes, an exclusive men's-only club helmed by a man with the ridiculous title of the Grand Poobah.
I have spoken.
At this point, I don't even know what to call a parody of a parody. Does it just become real life? Well, don't miss your opportunity to let us know in the comments below or else. The writers. But wait, you say, this might all still be a coincidence. You can't just copyright a show about two couples who are friends. And if the characters are a little derivative, isn't all art? But wait, say I. Because not only did Hanna-Barbera borrow the premise of their show, two of the first writers hired to work on the Flintstones were Herbert Finn and Sidney Zelinka, who had made their names writing for, you guessed it, the Honeymooners, which seems about as blatant as you can get. And while it didn't work out, both writers were soon fired for being too wordy and not including enough sight gags for animation. That doesn't change the fact that the Flintstones literally tried to employ the same writers that made the Honeymooners so damn good. Social class. This is where things get fun. Ralph Kramden is a bus driver, and Ed Norton works in the sewer department as a sub-supervisor in the subdivision of the Department of Subterranean Sanitation, and both couples live in relatively small apartments in New York, constantly scrambling for money. The Honeymooners is quite clearly a blue-collar show, and at first it appears that the Flintstones is too. Both Fred and Barney work in a quarry, very blue-collar, and Fred is constantly grumbling about money. But then you notice that Fred and Barney own their own houses, and their own cars, and the best that the Stone Age has to offer when it comes to comfort items. And Wilma and Betty are constantly shopping. So we must admit, the Flintstones aren't working class. They're living out the early 60s suburban American dream.
If everything works out, we can afford a maid and a cook, and you won't have to do anything.
Okay, that was fun for me. So what do you think? Did the Flintstones borrow a little too liberally from the Honeymooners? Have you ever noticed these similarities before? And are there any more that we missed? Get in the comments and let us know. After all, I'm just one nostalgic person, and you all are like a lot more. Before you go, please hit that thumbs up for us. It really helps a lot. And subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos. Otherwise, you might catch one right in the kissa. As always, from all of us here at Do You Remember, thanks so much for watching.